Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves in a lagoon surrounded by 4 islands. You'll be taking on the role of a mining corporation's CEO and trying to outcompete your opponents. Miners Lagoon is a resource management and worker placement game for 2 to 4 players, and you'll be using 2 different types of workers, both merchants and miners, to complete actions while trying to complete secret objective goals. Now, it's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and then I'll see you on the other side. Now this is a Kickstarter preview, so all the art and components you see here are a prototype, and you'll want to check the Kickstarter page to see all the final art and components. Now in Miners Lagoon, you are a CEO of your own mining company. At the beginning of the game, you're going to get a couple of different corporations that you can start as, and this gives everybody a different amount of money, different amount of workers, maybe different resources sometimes, but you'll get 2 of them. You actually get to pick which one you want to be, and you get to take those things. Now each player gets their own company's player board, and it's going to have the company that you selected. It's going to have, whatever you get. In this case, we have 3 miners, which are going to be workers that can do specific things, and 2 merchants and some money. Now again, these are prototype components, so here's what the money will look more like. Now the object of the game is to have the most points, and there's many ways to get points in the game, but one of the main ways is from private objectives. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 3 of these. They'll secretly select 2 of them, and those will be their objectives for the game that nobody else will know. For example, you can have 2 points for each of the different equipment that you have, because you can buy an equipment to mine with, or have 5 miners working for you. Well, this is a cool one to start with me. Good synergy, because I already start with 3 miners with this specific corporation. This one says have the most silver on your board, but you select 2 of them. So let's say we would select these ones. These would then go face down, but we could look at them at any point. Now you'll also be getting points by purchasing different types of equipment throughout the game, but they also sometimes give you some special actions you'll be able to do as well. You'll also be getting points sometimes by shipping. If you can ship some artifacts out, you'll get some points as well. And you'll also be getting points by fulfilling different deals by having a certain amount of enriched goods depending on what you see on the cards. Now the game takes place over this board, and it's called Miners Lagoon because there's 4 different islands that help create this big lagoon here. And the game is played over up to 15 rounds, or until a player gets 30 points, whichever happens first. Now each round goes through 3 phases. The first phase is the island selection phase, where each player is going to select which one of the 4 islands they're going to go to, because there's different actions on the different islands. Now with the starting player and then going clockwise, each player will get to select which island that they want to go on. And again, this is actually also going to set turn order. So what happens is red will go first, then blue, then green, then yellow, because that's the way that this is, the islands go in clockwise. But those are the order that you'll go in turns. And these islands, 1, 2, 3, and 4, correspond with 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the islands. So let's go through the different actions that you can do on these different islands. Which would bring you to the action phase, which is the main phase of each of the rounds, keeping in mind that this phase is going to continue until all players pass or run out of workers, and keep in mind that different players will have a different amount of workers throughout the game. And to make it obvious as to which island everybody's at, everyone can place their ship at those corresponding islands. So when you're selecting an action on your island, there's different ones to select. We're first going to go over operating the mining site. This is a special place on the board. It's the only one on the board where you actually use the miners. But when you take this action, you can place as many as you want. We start with 3 miners. We can place all 3 of them there. That allows us to either take 3 resources from any level 1 gallery, which has different resources, is 3 silver. Sometimes there'll be level 2 galleries down here, and these require 2 miners to get 1 resource as they're there. Now, not only do we see some face up, but sometimes, as we'll see later, as things get added, they can be added face down as well, and other players might know what's under there. So for example, we could have used these 2 miners to get this, and this miner to get either one of whatever's under here or under here. So we could have taken these 2 silver right there, and we would have placed it right on our board for the resources. Now, of course, we could have used this 3rd one to get that 3rd resource, but maybe we wanted to check what was here. We would have used this one, we would have flipped it over, we would have put 4 black cubes on here, and we would have taken 1 of them. However, we could have maybe selected this one, and sometimes some of those galleries are actually empty. Now you get 2 actions on your turn, and you can place as many miners as you want in that mining site for 1 action, which I just showed, or you can place a merchant worker in some of the different spots. So for 1 action, I can place this, and this tells me what to do is I can draw or close some of these deal cards. Now when you draw one of these cards, you would just draw one off the top. These ones would not be here, you wouldn't be able to see them, but I have them on here so you can see what these do. This is essentially, think of them as deals that you could possibly complete. So you could either draw a deal, which you would grab one of these and put it in your hand, and they look sort of like this. That's why I have these here so you can see what they do. And this is essentially having a certain amount, a certain level of different types of enriched goods. Like this one is one of the iron, level 1 iron, and one of level 2 of the copper. If you have that and you had this in your hand from grabbing this deal earlier, you can actually fulfill this deal by turning in those goods and getting that amount of points. Now we saw raw goods that we got earlier, the silver, and over the course of time you're going to be able to get different enriched goods and be putting them here, and those are the goods and the levels that also correspond with these cards that we're talking about at certain levels and certain goods that you'll be trying to get here to fulfill these. Now I know you're curious about the enriching of goods. There's a spot in the middle of the board, the Enrichment Center, where people are going to be putting in, buying and selling things to here, but we'll go over that later. Now remember, typically you're just taking 2 actions, then it's going to the next player based upon this turn selection here, but I'm going to go over all the other actions anyway. Here you can make up to 2 trades, and how this works is you basically can trade any one of the unenriched goods, like we just saw we had gotten raw silver, and or money. So you can turn 2 of anything into 1 of anything else. It's not a very good ratio, but if you really need something, that's where you can get it. Now here you can turn in 4 of any same type material to get an artifact of that type. Now artifacts tend to look like pyramids like this. So if you had 4 gold cubes, you could turn them in to get one of these gold artifacts. Now artifacts are used either at the end of the game, they're going to be worth 3 points, or as we'll talk about later, when you ship different things, artifacts get you some money and some points. So different ways to use those artifacts. Now the last one that I'll show you here is the Depart Island. I know it says Deport Island, but the action's called Depart Island. Essentially you can take your boat and move it to a different island where you'll be able to take actions on that island on your next little go around. Now the only thing here is that if you take your first turn of the round by doing the Depart Island, you essentially forfeit your second action in that sort of first turn around the players, because they don't want you to be able to just go to an island and go to another island and get an action first, because selecting an island is really giving you some of the first options there. So the Depart Island just allows you to jump to another island, assuming you have more workers that you want to use that round. Now on the second island, all the spots are the same except this one here, which is buy an equipment. Now when you place a merchant here, you can only place a merchant in the same spot once. However, if I had gone there and the red player wanted to go there, assuming their boat was at that island, they would need to actually place 1 more merchant than's already there. So they would actually have to use 2 merchants in order to take an action that I had already taken here. But let's talk about those different equipments. Now these equipment cards do a couple of things. Number 1, they cost money. You'll have to spend some money in order to get those. They will give you points. You'll immediately get those points, whichever one you get, and some of them will have some action that you'll be able to place a minor on for the rest of the game as part of actions. Like this one costs a lot, but it's basically just points, where some of the other ones that don't cost maybe as much, maybe smaller points, but they give you different abilities, like make a 1-to-1 trade, or every time you put a minor here, you'll get $2. You'll draw one of those deal cards we talked about. Different things like that. And so for an action, if you had a minor, you can place it on here. Once per round, you can put a minor here and just activate that ability. You don't get the points again, but you just activate the ability. In this case, I'd get $2. And as equipment is purchased, new ones come out. Now let's look at the third island. If the green player went here, they could pay 3 to recruit 1 new worker from their supply and place it on their board as giving them another worker. Here you can draw and place 2 different galleries into the mining section that we talked about. Now when this is done, if there's things in level 1 and you want to place them there, they'll get slid down and the new player will draw them and they can place them here. Now they can place them either both face up, both face down, or 1 face up and 1 face down. Now they get to look at these tiles secretly before they place them face up or face down. If they place them both face up, they get $3. If they place 1 face up, they get $2. If they put them both face down, they get nothing. Also, so it gives them sort of a little bit more information, and they can either make more money and give less information to other players. Also, if it's already full with level 1s and 2s, if they place one down here, this essentially would slide down and this one would go away, kind of like that. And they could have that same decision. That one's empty. They'd probably want to put that one face down and kind of bluff with somebody else. Remembering that, when you go to these mines, this one you use 1 miner to get a resource, where level 2s you have to spend 2 miners to get a resource. And anytime a tile is placed face up, you place the amount of cubes of that type on there, because those are the resources people will be mining. Now here you can go and make a shipment. Now when you do that, you can fulfill any one of these possible shipments. Like here, you could fulfill it by spending 1 black iron cube and 1 orange copper cube from your board, and you would get $4 from this, and you would keep this in front of you like that, and then a new one would come out. We talked a little bit earlier about artifacts, that you know, there's an action to spend 4 resources to get one, and if you're able to turn that artifact in, you get 2 points and $5. Or you can keep that artifact for the rest of the game and get 3 points at the end of the game. But these are showing you the different amount of cubes you would need to spend in order to get that money. Now this spot allows you to either place 3 minerals to the Enrichment Center or buy 2 minerals from the Enrichment Center. So let's just say we were the blue player, we just happened to have been there taking this action, and we had these cubes on our board, and we could place up to 3 of our normal goods into the Enrichment Center. So we'd take these 3 goods, we would turn them back into the supply, we'd actually take 3 cubes of our own color and place them onto the Enrichment Center, 1 on the copper and 2 on the silver. And so those would be tracked like this. They always go in this 0 line. Now, as the game goes on, as each of the rounds end, any resources that are enriched that have not been bought are going to be moving down and be going to, increase the level of what they are. And if you remember, that's important because different types of, deal cards showing this Enrichment Center icon. Like in this case, if you have a level 3 of iron, you can take that deal action to turn that in and get 3 points. So waiting for the right time to grab some of these enriched resources is going to help you finish some of those deals. So over the course of the game and over the course of the different rounds, as things don't get bought up and they get placed here and they move down, it might look something like this with different players having put different resources into that Enrichment Center. So instead of just placing resources from your own board to here, you can actually buy them from here. And when you buy, you can buy 2. Now you can never buy in this 0 line, but when we come down, we can buy different ones. So let's say with a blue player, we want to buy this level 2 iron from the red player and this level 3 silver from us. We could take those and put them on our boards. So we'd place the cubes like that. Keeping in mind, look at this. I may have had one of these deal cards earlier that says I'm going to need 1 level 2 iron, and I do that. I do have that now. So I can go back and take that action of the deal in order to turn this in and get some points like that. Now when you buy from someone else, you have to pay them at whatever level that is. So you would pay them $2 because you bought a level 2, and they would get a point. You always get a point when someone buys yours. You even get a point if you buy your own. So I would have gotten 1 point for this, and I would have had to pay 2 to the red player, and the red player would have gotten a point for me buying their enriched good. And the last island, the only different action here is you could pay 2 to recruit one of those miners, which we showed you, operate equipment, and go to the mining sites. Now after everyone's passed or out of workers, we go to the end of the round phase where this is going to move up like this. Now you'll notice on rounds 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15, there's a little money sign. This means you actually have to pay for all of your workers. Now at the end of the round, you'll get all your workers back, all the enriched goods in the Enrichment Center will go down 1, become more valuable at higher levels as I showed, but everyone will also have to pay their workers. What it does is you add all of these. So I have 5 workers, round up to an even number, there's 6, and I have to pay half of that. So I would have to pay $3 to pay all these workers. If I can't, I have to lose 1 point for each dollar I cannot pay. Players would also take their island cubes back from the selection. We'd start the island selection phase again. The first player island selection marker would pass clockwise the next player, and you'd continue through all of these phases. And this continues until you get to the 15th round. At the end of that, the game ends, or until one player has 30 points, and it ends at the end of that round as well. And at the end, players are going to just add up their secret goal points, their objectives. So here I'd say 2 points for each of the equipment. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I'd get 8 points there. And I'd get 4 points because I do have 5 miners working for me. And you get 3 points for any artifacts that you still have. Whoever has the most is the winner. Well, there you have Miner's Lagoon, and as I've shown in the overview, it takes familiar mechanisms like resource management and worker placement and puts its own spin on them by using different types of workers and specific actions being on different islands. Now, if you'd like to see the final artwork and all the components and all the different pledge levels that are available, you can click the link below me in the description of this video, and I'm sure they would love your support. This has been the Game Boy Geek, helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love.